Good afternoon, everybody. This is one of the toughest gigs, and I'm going to try not to interrupt your lunch, but if you indulge me for a few minutes, I just want to introduce somebody who's pretty special to us at the NPF. About a year ago, Cecilia connected with the NPF and became our intern. During this time, her intelligence, compassion, both shone through, and I like to say she's just so socially well-balanced. And because of that, Joseph and Didi don't know this yet, but I adopted her. She became my daughter last year, at least in my head. So, guess what? Joseph and I share the same birthday, the 19th of March. So now you know. No e-cards, just proper cards and presents next year, please, for Joseph and I. Cecilia is a 21-year-old student at Boston College, studying political science and sociology, with plans to continue on to law school. She first became sick with pancreatitis when she was 12 and was officially diagnosed at 15, dealing with acute pancreatitis on and off until she was 19, when it progressed to chronic pancreatitis. Almost exactly a year ago to this week, Cecilia had a total pancreatectomy and islet autocell transplant that gave her back her quality of life, a life she chose a life she chose us to be one of those she shares with. She loves sharing her stories with others and is excited to speak with you all today. And I'm really, really privileged and excited to introduce Cecilia, my daughter.
Hi. Well, thanks for that introduction, Patrick, and thank you to the NPF for inviting me to speak with you all today. I'd really like to thank you all, not only for taking the time to listen to me today, but for pursuing a career in medicine and for taking the time to learn more about pancreatic disease. With that being said, hi everybody, I'm Cecilia. As Patrick said, I'm a 21-year-old student at Boston College. I grew up in Connecticut with my parents, brother Daniel, and dog Finn, and I'm here today to tell you all a little bit about my experience with pancreatic disease. To be honest, I can't pinpoint exactly where my story with pancreatitis began because I went undiagnosed for several years. The first time I can really remember it happening was the summer before I started 6th grade. I woke up one morning with a wicked stomach ache and felt all around awful. My family and I all just thought I'd been hit hard by a stomach bug. But there are a few things that made this unlike any stomach bug I'd ever had before. The first being that the pain was excruciating and that it was only in my upper stomach and my back. The second being that I couldn't sit still. I was pacing constantly, largely because of the pain, and barely slept, didn't eat, and just was constantly uncomfortable. This continued for about a week, and then one morning I woke up, felt completely fine, ate breakfast, and my life went on. Situations similar to this happened about once a year for a few years before my doctor started to really wonder what was going on. When I was around 14, my doctor decided to have me go to the ER after a few days when I hadn't been feeling very well. She ran some labs, and to my surprise, my lipase and amylase levels were slightly elevated. I had already been feeling bad for a few days, so my doctor said the next time that this happened, I was to return and we'd run labs sooner. Well, about a year later, the pattern continued, and I started to feel awful. Right away, I went to the hospital and was quickly admitted with a case of acute pancreatitis. I spent about a week NPO, was kept comfortable with pain medicine, and like always, woke up one morning, felt great, and went home. With the general diagnosis of acute pancreatitis, I started seeing a slew of GI doctors trying to figure out what was causing my pancreatitis. Over the years, we looked at all kinds of triggers, from food to stress to sleep to hydration. I took antioxidant vitamins, pancreatic enzymes, you name it, nothing helped. At one point, I had genetic testing done. My results showed that I have a SPINK1 genetic mutation. Unlike PRSS1, SPINK1 does not have a concrete tie to pancreatitis, but there is a connection between SPINK1 and pancreatitis. So for a while, we considered my genetic mutation to be a contributing factor, but not the whole story. Over the years, my diagnosis evolved from acute pancreatitis to recurrent acute pancreatitis to idiopathic recurrent acute pancreatitis, which, by the way, try explaining that one to all your high school classmates where they ask where you've been for a week. But in the end, that genetic mutation seems to be the only answer we have, and I tend to say these days that I had genetic pancreatitis. Of course, the key to that is that I had genetic pancreatitis. I no longer have that, or any sort of pancreatitis, because I don't have a pancreas. I'll get more into that in a bit, but first I should explain how I got to that point. After I graduated high school, I was very excited to attend Boston College. I am the type of person who loves to plan. I started studying for the SATs as a freshman in high school and had this perfect idea of how my college life was going to go. I had the underlying fear that my pancreatitis would flare up while I was at school, but when I left for college, it was a once-a-year sort of thing, so I wasn't too worried. Unfortunately, a few months into school, my biggest fear came true, and I found myself in tears outside of my freshman dorm at 5 a.m. ordering an Uber to the hospital because I was in pain so excruciating I could barely talk. I stuck out my 10-day admission, went back to school, and desperately tried to make up my work and catch up. This incident marked the beginning of a rapid deterioration of my health. What started as once a year developed to being almost every single day during my first semester of my sophomore year of college. I wanted to go to school so badly, I would go to class in pain, eat and drink almost nothing, and then Uber to the ER on Friday nights, spend the weekend, and get discharged with just enough time to make it to my Monday morning classes. Unsurprisingly, that wasn't sustainable, and I began spending week-long clips in the hospital at a time. I looked and felt horrible. I was weak, pale, exhausted, and extremely stressed. For someone who loves to plan, there's nothing as devastating as losing all predictability in your life. I couldn't attend my classes. I couldn't make any plans with my friends. Some days I couldn't even pick up and look at my phone. I would practice my Mandarin and read my political theory books in the sweet spots of my day after the pain medicine mellowed enough that I was able to focus on something, but before it wore off so much that I couldn't stand the pain. My friends came to visit in between classes. They shuttled work back and forth, helped me right when I needed it, kept a steady flow of clean pajamas coming, and understood that to be a part of my life, they'd have to become really comfortable spending time in a hospital. I took one of my finals that semester in a hospital bed and finished the rest months late. After that semester, I knew I couldn't go back to school. I sobbed in a Boston hospital as I called my school to tell them I needed to go on medical leave. My parents and roommates moved me out of my dorm, and without school, I had nothing to focus on but getting better. March 9th of 2018, the day before my 20th birthday, I drove to Boston to see Dr. Friedman, my pancreatic specialist, for a follow-up appointment. I've been seeing him since I was 15, and nothing about the appointment seemed particularly special to me. When I sat down in his office, he was very honest with me. And he said that I was very sick, that it was bad, and most importantly, that it was getting worse. It was in that appointment that I was given an opportunity that ultimately has saved my life. Dr. Friedman explained to me that he'd spoken to an amazing team of doctors in Minnesota that he really thought could help me. He explained the total pancreatectomy and islet autocell transplant procedure to me, which simply is the removal of the pancreas and the infusion of its beta cells into my liver. He told me that he believed it would give me a chance at a life without pain, and that was all I really needed to hear. He didn't sugarcoat the surgery. He told me it would be hard and that it would take me a while to recover, but I really didn't care. After months of nonstop agony and years of having no predictability in my life, I was ready. That evening, I got in touch with the University of Minnesota, and within a few weeks, I was in Minneapolis being evaluated to see if I was a candidate for the procedure. Shortly after that visit, I was approved for the surgery. The date was set for April 30th, 2018, and my family and I quickly began making arrangements. In the few weeks we had, my mom organized a family medical leave from work. We found a place to live in Minneapolis, and we drove halfway across the country, leaving my dad and brother behind to give me a shot at living normally. The day of my surgery was so exciting for me. My parents went with me to the hospital bright and early. I got in my gown and started to get ready, and I just couldn't stop smiling. Everyone I know was texting me, wishing me luck, asking if I was nervous, and in all honesty, I wasn't. I could not imagine a life more painful than the one I was living. and I was excited to have a shot at fixing it. So off I wheeled, and about 16 hours later, I woke up in the University of Minnesota ICU. My parents told me all went well, and I'll be quite honest with you, the first few weeks after that, I don't remember much. After about 10 days, I was able to leave the hospital and go back to my apartment in Minnesota. My mom, a 6th grade math teacher, became my full-time nurse. She handled my feeding tubes, injected medication every 4 hours, and ran fluids through my port. I started walking around Minneapolis with my feed pump and a little backpack. And over the coming weeks,